So Manav, congratulations again, for making it to the ISB's PGP program. And also thank you for agreeing to do this video. The whole purpose of this video is also to help people who are coming from similar background in understanding your journey to from where you were to what you have done and made it to what helped you to made it to ISB's PGP program. Okay.
It's my pleasure.
Great. So let's start by understanding your academic and professional profile, Manav.
Okay, so I'm a student of commerce. I did my BCom honors in finance and investment from Christ University. I graduated in 2018. And I think academically, I've always been between average to slightly above average, be it in my board exam scores or be it in my college GPA or my GMAT score. I got a 690 on GMAT, which is somewhere around 84th or 85th percentile. But by ISB standards, it's a good 25 points below average. So that's academics. Professionally, I started my career in HR. I joined right from college. I joined India's first employee engagement company, the Fuller Life. I moved on as the first hire at a data science startup in Delhi. And then I moved on to work at DE Shaw, which is a multi-billion-dollar finance company, all in HR roles. Currently, for the last two and a half years, I've been the executive assistant to the managing director of Linen Design Company, which is India's largest bootstrapped home linen brand. And in my current role, I take care of a 60 crore rupees supply chain. I also execute founders office projects. So be it setting up performance reviews or setting up smart warehouses or factories, ERP implementations and things like that.
Great. And picking the question from your answer, as you rightly said, you had not a superb academics or GMAT, but a decent ACAD score and a GMAT score, which was less than the class average. And when we look at your work experience, you have worked with 4 different companies with less than 5 years of your work experience. So it must not have been a very easy application to build, for such a background. So what was your application strategy and, the primary focus areas in the application?
So this is a good question because I think narratives are very important. I think this is something I learned from you and your team, that you can say that I worked in four companies in different functional areas in 4.5 years. And you can look at it as a weakness or you can look at it as a strength. So the strategy was very much around creating a narrative which showcased my professional diversity and tying it in with the diversity that ISB values within its cohort. So I worked with Priyanka, who's a consultant that you put me in touch with. And it was about creating a narrative around how my past experiences in HR helped me in my current role as a founder's office executive, and how all those experiences have come full circle in me needing to do an MBA at this point from ISB. And why ISB? Because of the diversity that ISB fosters. So I think it actually, when I came to you, I was severely underconfident because I was always told that, oh, you've done so many jobs in such less time, and you will not, you are competing with people who work for 4 years in Goldman Sachs or McKinsey, right? So you feel like you are an underdog, but actually ISB really values diversity. So we highlighted the fact that I've worked in most employment hubs in the country. I worked with a very diverse set of people, both socially, culturally, and economically. I lead a team we highlighted my leadership experiences, where I was the head boy of my school, I was the head of my department in college, and now I'm leading a team of 150 people, and how having a diverse background actually helps in that. So it was basically about showcasing why I belonged at ISB by creating a narrative that fits in with what ISB wants. And I think that's where having admission consultants who have worked at ISB is so important, because you guys have, I can be very smart, I can be very accomplished, but I do not have the perspective that folks who like people like you have. You can tell me unique things that I would not know otherwise. So it's very important to understand who you're writing the essay for. And I think you helped with that a lot.
Great. And I'm also assuming, so, the Priyanka, the consultant with whom you worked, okay?
Yeah.
So the interaction with her also helped you bring a better perspective and approach, in the essays and the application.
Totally. So I think it was very important because I got inputs on the admission process itself, which I was completely clueless about. What is the adcom looking for? And it, I think primarily what it does is it helps you calibrate your mind,
Yes.
because when you're writing your essays, like I said, you understand what are they looking for, who are they, and who am I writing this essay for. And I think what came out of that daily interaction with Priyanka, those constant inputs and improvements, was probably the best, most compelling piece of content I've ever created.
Great. Great, Manav. And Manav, how much time did ISB give you to prepare for the interview, and how did you prepare for the interview?
So ISB informs us 5 days in advance. So you get a 5-day window to prepare. And the first thing I did when I got the confirmation was I signed up for an interview package. And we can get into that later, but I want to cover a couple of generic points first, which are, I would say, prerequisites. Even if you're taking expert help, you need to think about yourself and your career. I think what ISB looks for is clarity of purpose.
Yeah.
So if you yourself are confused about what you're doing and you're just saying things, they will see through that, because they are very experienced and they've seen lakhs and lakhs of people like you. So being very clear on what you've written in your essays and your application, having done enough introspection about yourself and your career is extremely important. And of course, taking professional help from people like ISB Mantra is extremely important.
Great. And after you signed up, you would have went through several mock interviews and counseling sessions with different experts.
Yeah.
So how did this help you streamline your thoughts? How did you see your approach changing through these sessions?
So I remember my first session, which was with you. And I think from my perspective, it was quite a poor performance on my part, in terms of I was very nervous, I was blabbering, I was not cohesive and coherent in my speech. Um, but it was important to go through that, and you gave me very important advice as well. But I think the way this whole interview package was structured was very important, because the next session I had was a career counseling session with a very senior
Yes.
AdCom member, Mr. Kanan sir. And I think he
Yeah,
put
he
me,
was the director admissions in
yeah,
ISB. Yeah.
and I think that was a brilliant sort of 1 hour long conversation where he helped me piece the logical steps together in my career progression, in my in what I was saying I wanted to do at ISB
Yeah.
and post ISB. I think that really put my mind at ease. And post that, I think I was rather shocked and impressed at the kind of people you put me in touch with for the interviews. We had a director level person from Flipkart, a senior manager from Nykaa, and then a lawyer and a PhD for my final session, a very, very senior person. And I could very clearly see the progression I was making with each session. I was less nervous. I was more concise. And by the way, these people had taken actual ISB interviews before. So
Yes.
their thought process and their perspective was invaluable, right? So I think the last session I had was perhaps the best interview experience I've ever had. And that really made me feel calm and composed and confident about going forward with the interview. And I can tell you now, if I hadn't taken this package, I was in a lot of trouble. Where if I just went for the interview without this kind of prep, I would not have made it. So thank you for that.
Great. And Manav, how was the actual, interview with ISB, and what were the key areas of discussion during this interview?
So I think the way the whole admissions process was conducted was extremely professional. Uh, my experience was nerve-wracking, but it was quite pleasant. They made us feel very comfortable. Uh, so the discussion, like I was talking about before, ISB makes a lot of effort to tap into its local alumni network to pair you with people who will have some insight into your profile. So, for example, I had a diverse profile. I had an operations and an HR background. And I was surprised to find out that the three people who were interviewing me had very, very similar profiles.
Right.
So there was a sense of relatability that was established.
Yes.
The interview, the tonnage of the interview was friendly and casual. But they started off by asking me to give a basic introduction of myself and my career and things like that. But overall, the session was about justifying the number of jobs I had done, justifying why I had switched from HR to operations, justifying why I wanted to continue in operations. And they went really in depth about my current role and asked me about projects, asked me about specific executions of those projects. And this is where I would like to add a disclaimer for anybody who watches this. Do not write anything in your essays or your application that you cannot justify.
Yes.
And if you write things that you can justify, these questions are a blessing, because I would much rather talk about the nitty-gritties of the projects I have executed, because that puts me at ease. It makes me feel comfortable. And I think that's sort of what helped me get through, because they went really in depth and I was able to justify it.
Great, great. So Manav, now that you have an admit, what are you looking forward to the most at ISB, and are there specific things you are planning to do before you actually join the campus?
Yeah, so I think ISB has done a meet and greet already of all the folks in Delhi, and I was quite taken aback and impressed at just the wide range of backgrounds that people come from, and the conversation is very enriching, and I am really looking forward to actually learning from these people, because I think just the way they structure it in the essays, they are looking for people who can contribute uniquely, and it really is like that. You're talking to people who are teaching you lots of different things that you wouldn't have learned otherwise, and you're teaching them things that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. So I think that's a very enriching experience, and I'm looking forward to maximizing that. I am also planning on taking a pre-MBA course just to brush up on the basics of finance, accounting, Excel, economics, and things like that. Although ISB also offers the course in itself, like you were mentioning, but I'm just doing that just to remove any early jitters that I may have when I get to ISB, so that I can hit the ground running. One advice I would also give to somebody who has been admitted that I got from alumni is be clear about do research on the kind of roles that are offered during placement. For example, you can go into consulting, you can go into general management, you can go into sales, marketing, finance, operations, all sorts of things. But there's a different path to achieve those roles for each of those roles. So what I am trying to do is do research, reach out to people who are working in the roles that I want, so that I understand when I reach ISB, I can hit the ground running and do the things that I know will get me to the job that I want to have.
Great, Manav. These are really great inputs. And before we wrap up, any last piece of advices to the prospective applicants?
Yeah, I think it's very important to, like I was talking about clarity. I think that concept plays through your application, your essays, and while you're at ISB as well. Take time to think about your journey. Take time to think about what you want to do. And the more self-aware you are, the better the more use you'll make of your experience at ISB. So that's one thing I would love to say. I would say do your research. Do your research about ISB. Do your research about the co-curricular activities at ISB, the professors that teach at ISB. Because what happens is, as you do that research, you actually get more and more excited about joining. And that comes out in the conversations you have with the interviewers, or it comes out in your essays. So be clear on your research. And lastly, and this sounds very generic, but I think it's very true for me and for a lot of people who will end up watching this. Just believe in yourself. There is no one path to success.
Great.
I am a very good example of that. I have below average to average scores. I have a very scattered, you could say, a very scattered professional work portfolio. But that doesn't mean that you can't achieve the milestones you're looking to. If you're clear, if you make purposeful decisions and back them up with logic, just believe in yourself and you will get there. People who enter ISB are not God's gift to mankind. They're just normal people who've done things in a logical way and achieved their goals. Take it step by step, believe in yourself, and there's no reason you can't make it. If I made it, you can make it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Manav. And I wish you all the best because, this 52 weeks going to be a good roller coaster ride for you.
Yeah.
So the journey begins now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vikram.